I find it very ironic that I'm doing a series of videos on my channel right now called the Black Massacre series. And in the midst of these Black massacres, a lot of them dealt with Black towns being destroyed for becoming upwardly mobile and fending for themselves post chattel slavery. Of course, by the time this video goes up, I haven't gotten to those towns yet, but just know that they are coming. And of course, we've already heard mainly a lot about them. And then this story comes about, and shout out to Lisa Cabrera because she did a very good piece about this as well. So you can see right here on your screen, it says to be successful in Black business owners kicked out of shopping malls across the country, not across the state, not across a city or a county, but across the nation. Various 50 states around the establishment, or where there are Black owned stores inside of these malls. Now, if y'all remember, a couple years ago, I did a video about a man who owned a store called Castle Tees in North Carolina, where he basically sold graphic shoes, whether he designed, or shirts. That's basically what he was doing. It's almost like not so much a sports store, but something, it was very appealing to the eye that it made people want to come in and buy. And these were all custom made. And his store sat in between, I believe, a Foot Locker and a Finish Line. It was in between two mainstream multi-billion-dollar world-renowned stores. I do know this. And they were trying everything that they could to get this man out of the store. And then one day a fight had broke out near the store. Not in, but near the store. And that's when they took the golden opportunity to hit this man with a pink slip and said, you can no longer have your store here because it's attracting quote unquote bad business. And we know what they were trying to say. Mind you, this guy did not know who these people were. And it just kind of happened. And the thing is, they try to make it seem like fights don't happen at the mall all the time. And they definitely do. But they had to find a way to get him out of there because I believe the people who was involved in the fight were Black. So they just used that as an example or a way to get him out of there. And unfortunately, they were successful. And they didn't give him a long time to get out of the store. I think they gave him like a 30-day notice. I'm like, how you expect him to get all that stuff out of there in 30 days? And it probably was less than that. If y'all remember what I'm talking about, you were here when I did that story, you know exactly what I'm talking about. But what I'll do is I'll leave the link to that particular story because that story is still around. I actually found the link to it recently, and I'll leave it down or pin it down in the comments so you can read the article for yourself. It's very crazy. But I said with the traction that he got, go build his own brick and mortar somewhere else. And it's crazy because that guy actually got started on social media, and he gained so much traction online that he ended up getting his own store from the profits he made and was being successful there. And they were mad because this man was making more money than these other stores during the pandemic. I believe they said his store made like $1 million in the year of the pandemic happening, or like the year after, something along those lines, at a time when a lot of stores were not making profits, and they were threatened by that. So they had to find a way to get him up out of there. And this store was in a mall. I think someone told me it was in South Point. I think it's called South Point Mall in Durham or Raleigh, North Carolina. It's one of those two cities. Anyone who's down there knows what mall I'm talking about. But what I'm going to do now is read this article coming from Black Enterprise, because as you can see, it's happening more commonly now with other stores in various malls around the establishment. There is something going on with Black entrepreneurs in America's shopping malls. Black business owners across the country are seeing a pattern of being kicked out of their rented spaces. In the prime of the holiday shopping season, South Point Mall in Virginia gave business owner Italia Talley a lease termination with no prior warning on Christmas Eve. I forgot there is a South Point Mall in Virginia. I know exactly where that mall is. You got to travel a little further southern VA in order to get there, though. It was reported that it was because of Santa Claus displays in her store that showed a playful image of Santa being tied up by models playing off the idea of naughty and nice. Tally said to the Shade Room that she was told these images shouldn't be displayed. He said, "You can't tie Santa up. You can't tie Santa up with a rope." Tally said business was good for the 8 months she was there. However, because she was given less than a week to vacate the premises, she had to throw out many of her things. Her termination notice, obtained by one outlet, did not state why she was being evicted. Now that I'm reading that story that I was telling you about the casualties, I think that he got like a similar notice that had the same kind of deadline of when he had to be out and vacate the premises. They really don't give them enough time to get their stuff out there, and they don't tell them why. Kind of reminds you of when I did that story about Tiffany Guillory, the update that she got reinstated, but they told her, oh, we're removing you because of a quote unquote personnel matter. The same thing with that woman who was the town manager in North Carolina back over the summer. They said that she was difficult to work with, but they just left it so vague. The same thing with the woman down in the Virgin Islands who was doing the JP Morgan situation. They just let her go. See, they always leave it so vague whenever black people are doing something to further themselves, but then they get rid of them when they feel threatened by our success. What does that remind you of? Doesn't that remind you, again, going back to what I said at the beginning of this video, the black towns that got destroyed? See, the thing is, they can't go and do the complete and utter savagery that their ancestors did by dropping bombs on the towns and destroying the businesses and pocketing the profits. So now they do it this way. This is their new way of doing it. It seems to be a pattern of attempting to remove black businesses from shopping malls as soon as they're deemed successful. In 2021, news spread of a barbershop in Charlotte, North Carolina, opening a space in the affluent South Park Mall. So it's South Park Mall, not South Point. A few weeks later, WCNC reported that mall management told owners Damian and Jermaine Johnson that their temporary lease would be terminated early. The mall said it was because they were in talks with a permanent tenant. After the news made the rounds on social media, reports came in that the business would be staying. See, they got caught. They had no reason to remove them. None. Other than these were two successful black men with a barbershop inside of that mall. See, the thing is, to black people, let me just put this out here right now. It does not matter how successful you are. It doesn't matter how much money you make. The fact of the matter is that you are a black person who is successful in this PC ran establishment, and they do not want you to succeed. They do not want us to succeed. That's why I can't take them seriously when they keep talking about this pull yourself up by the bootstraps nonsense, because they don't even do that. Refer back to the live stream that I just did about Dana White and how he got the funds to get where he's at. Let's continue. Up the road in Durham, another business owner experienced something similar. Last year, popular sneaker and specialty clothing store Sir Castle Tees, like I mentioned earlier in the video, because like I told you, I spoke about that, was forced to close after the mall served him in eviction papers without warning, earning over $1 million in sales after being open only for 6 months. Owner Michael Phillips felt he was targeted for being good at what he does in a shooting that caused a lot of chaos. We are definitely the hot commodity because we do everything that everybody wants on the internet. The source reported that the shooting happened nowhere near Phillips' store. As for Tally, since news of her lease termination broke, mall management has asked her to come back to South Point. However, she's not sure if she wants to make that commitment again. I wouldn't. You told this woman that she needed to pack her stuff up for no reason and said she had 7 days to do it. There is no way you will be getting me to come back to you again. You just got to do without. See, the thing is, social media got a hold of it and they clap back at them. I don't know why a lot of these PC establishments even go through the lengths of doing stuff like this, knowing people are going to get a hold of it and push back. I swear they probably hate that black people got a hold of the internet. And they probably hate that black people got a hold of social media to help things stuff like this to go viral. They hate it. See, back then, it was easier for them to do because there was no such thing as going viral. There wasn't social media. And I'm not talking way, way, way back in the day, like our parents' time. I'm talking about maybe like in the early 2000s, when the only way you could get on the internet, you had to have a computer. You didn't have access, like you didn't have a smartphone. So it's a little bit more easier now, way easier, honestly. And as you can see, the article corrected me. They said it was a shooting at that mall. It wasn't a fight, and the shooting was nowhere near the store. But because the shooting involved black people, they linked it back to him, or they tried to link it back to him as a reason as to why they had to get him out of the mall. I said, look, just leave, go start your own thing outside of a mall, and literally do you, separate from them. And then it could most likely work out in your favor. That was my suggestion. That was a lot of people's suggestion under the comment section of that video. And that would be my suggestion to this woman right here, who I believe is who they're talking about in this story. Because honestly, she doesn't need them. They need her. And also because of the backlash that they received, now a lot of the people who gave them backlash, who may have gone to that mall, maybe will not, hopefully, support that mall anymore in any capacity. No matter what the store is, they'll go to another mall, you know, or send something her way so she can start her own brick and mortar, and she can build that up, and she doesn't have to worry about dealing with whatever it is that she's dealing with right now, or was. That's messed up. And they said on Christmas Eve, what they knew was that woman was doing numbers during the holiday, and they got threatened by it. They are threatened by black people's success. That's really all it boils down to. And people love to say that we don't live in a racist nation. We don't live in a systemically oppressed nation. Then you got these fools out here like Mark Dice talking about there's a war on white people because they can't say the N-word, amongst other things. No, Mark Dice. This right here is what a war looks like. When stuff like this continuously happens on a continuum basis, this right here is a war. This is a real war right here that I'm talking about, Mark Dice. Not you having the inability or the allowance of saying the N-word or whatever else that you said in that video for 9.5 to 10 minutes, which equals out to dust. I bet you he won't talk about this. I know he won't. And the thing is, a lot of these people who say stuff like he does will never address this, at least not in the way that it should be. They'll pick apart something and then they'll say, oh, they're just being woke. Oh, they're just complaining. Oh, they're just doing this, because that's the easy thing to do. It's also the nonsensical thing to do. It's the non-genuine thing as well. But in order to appease their audience, they'll say stuff like that, no matter how BS it sounds.